Okay, we're back with a first time here. We've got a feature with a really high level Edison player. We've got Luke Anthony with us. So Luke is, just as a bit of an intro, he's YCS Milan 2010 Giant Card winner. He's also won UK Pro 1, second place at UK Pro 3, and obviously top 8 at UK Pro 4. We featured his deck on our wrap up for that event. He's also top 8'd Lille Ultimate Time Wizard and the UK Nats top 8 in 2025. So we've got a very seasoned player with us, and Luke is going to talk to us a bit about War League, what that event is, give us a bit more about himself, and also teach us how to read back row. So, Luke, welcome to the channel.
Thank you very much. So obviously that's quite an in-depth introduction. Aside from all of those bits and pieces, I've been playing Yu-Gi-Oh since about 2008. So started the game around the time Phantom Darkness came out, which, according to a lot of players, was sort of a turn for the worse for the game. But so Dad has sort of been with me the whole time. The whole time I've been playing. What could I say? Sort of more than that, really.
Yeah, well, we actually go back a little way. So back before I quit the format, I quit Yu-Gi-Oh in 2011, 2012, around that time when I went over to uni. So I went from Milton Keynes to Portsmouth, and Luke, you were in Hemel at the time, I think.
That's right. Yeah.
And but we would regularly play, same group of friends, etc. See you at events all the time. Playing the local Costa Coffee back in the day.
Yeah, Milton Keynes Coffee and Spoons every Tuesday.
yeah. So we go back a long way, but yeah, obviously, unfortunately, lost touch. But then reconnected at UK Pro 4 when I was there to try and play, but more try and get some features, because playing and running features was incredibly difficult. But you ended up doing really well on that day. We actually played on that day. You crushed me pretty quickly with the Forg deck.
It was a 2-1. I remember the game too. I got soloed by Royal Oppression.
Yeah.
After seeing you mill one, so I was like, yeah, I'm safe to go into this back row, and it's the second oppression. But the misreads do happen occasionally.
I think,
especially when we've got no information.
I think that game I drew like Trag, Oppression, Charge, Recharge, Wolf, and I think it was one of the boss monsters as well. I looked at that opening hand. I was like, yeah, you're not winning this game.
You have like very quick as well.
Yeah. No, so it's really great to have you here, and yeah, it's amazing. Obviously, losing touch over those years, but it's amazing that you kept on with Yu-Gi-Oh. Obviously, you mentioned to me prior to this call that you'd had loads of other tops in between kind of 2010 and now, but obviously not relevant to the format that we're talking about. But yeah, so you're an OG. You've been playing for a long time. So we've both probably got back and knee pain and high rarity Edison cards. So why don't you tell us a little bit about War League, about the deck that you're bringing, that you're going to show off, and how we're going to then we'll jump into the replay, and we'll show how we're going to do some reads and read the back row even on a simulator as opposed to in person.
Yeah, cool. So War League spans across a variety of formats. So there's a GOAT format War League, Edison format War League, Hat format War League. All of the popular Yu-Gi-Oh formats have a War League. Edison is the only one that I play in. I have dabbled in a bit of GOAT, but not sort of to the same extent as Edison, because Edison is more nostalgic to me. GOAT is sort of before my time. So what War League is you bring a team of up to 8 players, minimum 6, maximum 8, and you are put into conferences, and each week you'll play another team in your conference until you've completed a round robin, and then the top 16 teams effectively will be put into a knockout to win the league. So each week you'll play, you pick 5 players to go forward, and you'll play a 5v5, so each player is randomly paired with a player from the opposite team, and then the first team to 3 wins effectively wins the war, but you play on the remaining games for the sake of tiebreakers. So it's very different to a tournament format. So you'll notice when you see the deck list, the side deck is not quite what you'd normally expect, and that's because what you do in the War League is you look at the team that you're facing, and you kind of you can look at the history of what they've been playing previously, or what their players have a reputation of playing. So, for example, I mean, my team is, I've got myself, Jamie Stafford, Alistair, Adam Sheck, Mitch Lonnan, Carl Hall, Louis Millward, Danny Jackson, and we've just recently recruited Red Gadget. So Louis left the team, and Red Gadget, who's again a very seasoned Blackwing player, will be joining our team. Now, this team, I don't know if you know a lot of the players in that lineup, but
I know all of the players in that lineup. Yeah.
Yeah, so everyone, well, when they will play against us, they will be pre and hard for Forgs. So the way we will counteract that is we tend to not bring more than one Forg deck per week, unless we think that's how we win. Maybe we will bring 2 or 3 Forg decks if we think that's the strategy for that particular week. But typically, we'll only bring one, and the rest of the lineup will be made out of the more resilient decks, the Vi Turbo, Blackwing, Light Swarm variants, things like that. So that's sort of how it works. Then once you get to the knockout stage, it's an Iron Man format. So each team puts 6 players forward. They all play against each other. Any that lose are eliminated, and then the winners will be repaired with the winners from the other team until everyone's been knocked out. So theoretically, your whole team could get knocked out by one person. That one person could reverse sweep and take the match, which actually is what Adam did last season with his team. In the semi-finals, his team were all out, and he sort of reverse swept the opposing team, and then they benched him in the final.
Sometimes you got to bench your best player. Got to let them cool down.
It's just like, but that's sort of the ins and outs of War League, how it works. And you do tend to get a very high quality of player playing because it's a league format. It does reward consistency, and that's sort of the important thing. That's why I wouldn't say I prefer it to tournaments, because nothing quite beats the vibe of an in-person tournament. It's all played online, but in terms of sort of showcasing your skill as a player and using that to do well, it's very good for that.
Yeah, so before we start recording, I mentioned that I've spoken to a couple of I speak to like high-level players on TV a lot, because they'll catch me, getting their replay, etc. And so I mentioned that Viewley, he takes part in that. I don't know what team he's in, but that's an RBET finalist, world competitor, etc. Alistair on your team, again, huge player and well known in the community, kind of one of the creators of Forgs, and just regular top 10 top 3 duelist on ladder. So yeah, it sounds like this league is full of some of the best players in our format.
Yeah, it's a really cracked league. Yeah.
Good for practicing. So we understand why the side deck looks a bit strange.
Yeah, so should we talk a little bit about the deck list now?
Yeah, so talk about the deck list and why it was built this way and what you were expecting to go up against.
Yeah, so we'll talk main deck first. So the main deck, as you can see, looks pretty standard. Yeah. There's a few flexes in there. So the main things that will probably jump out to people are the Gauze, the Book of Moon in the main deck, and the Dust in the main deck. Now, none of these are particularly controversial cards, but they're, your completely standard Blackwing list. Those cards would probably be a second Vayu, a second D-Prison, and a tech slot like an Oppression or a Deck Devastation Virus, or maybe even a third Prison, something like that. Yeah. So I'll talk about the Gauze first, because the Gauze generally competes with the second Vayu for the 19th monster slot. It's a major point of contention within the Blackwing community. So some players consider the second Vayu to be mandatory engine, and I'm a very vocal Gauze enjoyer. So if you ever catch me in the Blackwing channel when the Gauze conversation comes up, I'm very pro Gauze. That's not to say you can't run 2 Vayu and Gauze. I mean, Red Gadget's had a lot of success with a 20 monster lineup with the double Vayu and the Gauze, and you got a top 4 at a UTW, top 2 I think at a UTW in fact, and a top at RBT with the following week with that list. So obviously you can do both, but they do tend to compete for the same slot. So I personally consider Vayu to be sort of a bonus piece in Blackwings rather than an engine piece or an integral part of the strategy, and I just think Gauze is a more impactful card overall. It pairs really nicely with the triple Yatta and the random Dust Tornado in the main, because I mean you'll see in the replay, it's not the Dust Tornado, it's actually the MST, but how that allows me to mask the gauze in my hand, and the gauze just completely runs away with the game. No spoilers. The Book of Moon, I suppose, is the next one to talk about. So that's really in the list because the team that we were playing against was Ed Med Blue, and they have a really good GB player, which is Jake Matten, who, if you don't know him, he actually topped SJC Edison back in 2010 with GBs. I think he came 5th place overall.
Yeah,
so both the Book and the Dust Tornado kind of cover the GB, and I think it's the best card that covers both GB and Gigavise, sorry. That's not Royal Oppression, which is obviously already in the side deck. So they have Magical Mullet, who's Gigavise. I won't say one trick because he can obviously play other stuff, but he is very consistently playing Gigavise in War League, and he's very good at it. So I wanted to kind of cover those two decks just because those are the sort of the ace players on that team. Now, the Gauze obviously doesn't play well into GBs, but it does play well into Gigavise. So that was sort of a concession that I had to make in the GB matchup if I'd have rolled Jake. The Dust Tornado, similarly, it's really good against GBs. It's really good against Gigavise. And it can, it's versatile into HRC decks because it's a chainable. They have a Flip Dragon player on their team who's been consistently playing Flip Dragons every week. It's just good into those sorts of decks because you can chain it to the Raikou without losing advantage, and it just pairs nicely with the Yatters to mask back row into a face down monster. So I think that's probably it for the main deck.
Yeah.
With the side deck.
Sorry, Luke. Just before we get onto that. So the pairings for War League, you said you roll for each other there. Explain that. So do you know when you're deck building, you know the team, but you don't know the member of the team you're going up against? Is that right?
That's correct. So what we have to do, so I'm the captain of the team. So my job at the beginning of each week is to submit my lineup. So I will pick my 5 players and the 5 decks that we use in, and I submit them in an order, and they will be put into 5 slots, A, B, C, D, E. And then the opposing captain will do the same thing, and those players will pair up against each other. So
is it normally like the best player is player A, and then?
Nope, you mix it up every week because obviously otherwise other teams will get an idea of what you're doing, and they'll be able to pick their matchups based on where you tend to put people. So I'll sit there and roll a dice, allocate each player a number. 6 is roll again, and roll the dice to position A, position B, C, D, and then whoever's left will be position E. So it doesn't impact anything other than the pairings. So you don't, you'll still play all 5 games, and all 5 games are still weighted the same.
Okay, cool. And then the side deck, not the typical Blackwing side deck. Normally you'd expect to see Fossil Diner, Ways to Out, Consecrated. You've got some of that in here, so talk us through this.
I've got the Cyber Dragons and the Fishers. So Consecrated is actually pretty well covered in this side deck. I've got 5 cards that deal with it nicely, plus the deck dev is also in there. But I mean, the Cyber Dragons, the Fishers, and the Book of Moon can all kind of either permanently or temporarily erase it from play. So I can either deal with it on the spot or book it and make a board and deal with it that way. So I will preface this by saying I wouldn't recommend this side deck for ladder or a tournament. Obviously, we've got the meta in War League where you're prepping for the expected matchups. So main concerns for us were this team plays a lot of Hero Frog, hence the triple rug. Now, we weren't necessarily expecting them to bring Hero Frog into us because we are quite notorious Forg team, and Hero Frog is absolute suicide into Forgs. But they were bringing 1 to 2 Hero Frogs every week, so I wanted to side the triple rug for that. And obviously, as I've spoken about, their ace players in Jake and Mullet, I wanted to cover Gigavise. So the concession I had to make was what's going to be the least useful 2 cards that I can cut for the additional book and the additional rug. And I decided that VD Crow was probably going to be the least impactful card because it's mid against Hero Frog. I mean, I wouldn't side it in against Hero Frog because it's too easy for them to play around. I wouldn't side it in against GB because it only nails the Prisma Test Tiger play. And I would side it in against Giga, but that's only because you've probably got something worse that you want to side out. And I don't think it's a great card versus Giga. It's kind of mid-tier. So, as I said, with Book of Moon, I think it's the best card that covers both GB and Giga outside of Royal Oppression. So I was looking at what I would want to bring DD Crow in against, if anything. And the main thing was Fire Turbo, because they don't play Forgs, they don't play Dragon Turbo, they don't play Quick Draw. There's not really anything that I would want the DD Crows against other than Fire Turbo. So I thought to myself, what's more important than the Crows or the Nox? Well, Nox can come in against Machina Control, which is quite a horrible matchup for Blackwings. The Crow probably wouldn't come in against that because you can't Crow the Fortress on summon, and it's just that a couple of Pots of Avarice are really the only thing to Crow. So that was sort of my logic in cutting the Crows. Now, Dyna is a card that I will play in specific metas, but it's not in my standard Blackwing side deck, and if it is, it's a one-off. And the main reason for that is when I was testing against, Forks is probably the main deck that it's really important against. And when I was testing against Forks and against other Frog variants and Gigavise and other combo decks, I always wanted to use my normal summon on a Blackwing. If I'm playing into established board, look at Gigavise for an example. If they're going to set up a Stardust Dragon, I'm not going to set a Dyna into that. I want to summon my Blizzard and make a Goyo or a Bryonak or something. If I'm playing into Forgs and they've got Duke Frogs and a Flip Flop, I can set the Dyna, it's just going back to my hand. So I actually think the card in specifically Blackwings isn't as good as it's made out to be. Obviously, it can be really useful in those matchups if you've got tempo, but it's a card that I will quite happily cut a lot of the time, and if I play it, it is a one-off.
Yeah, I think Crow's interesting, right? Especially if you're going up against Gigavise, because you can stop the Supervise bringing the Gigaplant back, but at that point they've already Synchro summoned. You're already quite far behind, so totally agree taking it out for Gigavise.
And House Blackwing beating that board, you need to normal summon your Shura, and you need to Kalute over there to Titanial, bring out the Gale and Black Rose the board or something like that. It's not a case of the Dyna is going to save you here. If you're playing into their established board, you need to do it with birds.
Yeah, and a lot of the time the Gigavise board game one won't even go for the Synchro now. They'll just do Gigaplant Supervise Titanial, and then if they survive a turn, then you've got all you need to kind of try and kill them on the next turn. How do you feel? So, I play a deck that has access to 3 Crow either in the main or side, and for me that's because of Forgs. So you guys are the Forg team effectively. You're never worried that anyone's going to pick that deck up for you specifically because you're probably the most well-versed Frog team.
So we don't tend to field multiple Forgs in a week. We have done in the past. If we expect that it's the right choice to win the war, but typically, one of our players will bring Forgs and the rest of us will bring something else more resilient, again, like the Blackwing, Vayu, Lightsworn variants, or even Hero Beat. War League is quite a good quite a good environment for Hero Beat because it can be quite oppressive into GBs, which are popular, which are also a lot scarier than Twilight for Forgs.
Yeah, what about Forg players on the other teams playing you with the deck? You don't think they're going to bring it?
No, I think if you brought Forgs into our team, knowing that Alistair is on our team, I don't think you can expect to win a lot of games. Interesting enough, though, one player did bring Forgs against us, and it was Tristan, who topped UTW Birmingham with Forgs, and he got paired into Mitch, who we put on Twilight because Twilight covers. We were expecting Forgs this week because he's not played anything else. He's only played Forgs, so we put Mitch on Twilight. In anticipation of hopefully getting the matchup. We got it and lost. So, it does happen. Now, I didn't bring Crow on this occasion because their team doesn't play Forgs. And when you've got a Forg player on the other team, because if a player is good on Forgs, they will be known for it because it's a hard deck to play, right? And I don't know if you're on the War League server, but if you go onto the War League server, you'll have access to all of the replays. And if you just search for Frog OTK and look for unknown players playing the deck, you will see honestly some of the most horrendous play, and that's no shade on people. You know, you have to like play the deck to learn it.
Yeah.
Although I wouldn't necessarily say your War League matches are the best place to do that, but you know, you'll barely get through one turn of a replay without seeing a mistake.
Yeah, I think I mean, I think Forgs is probably, I think the two most complex decks in our format are Gigavise and Forgs, and I think Forgs is probably more complex. And I remember watching a Dionysus video, and he'd kind of said that he must have about 100 hours in the chair on Gigavise before he even started making content on it, and that's a lot of games. That's a lot of games.
Yeah, no, I'd agree with that analysis. I think the combo decks, by nature of the way that they're trying to achieve victory, are more complicated. You look at a deck like Blackwings, it's a summon and attack deck. You know, this is fundamental Yu-Gi-Oh! It's proactive. You summon your stick, you hit them in the face, or you run over their monster. Even if there's what I'll always say about Blackwings. Blackwings is a hard deck to play perfectly, but it's a very easy deck to win with because it's very intuitive, and if you get it wrong, you will not often be punished.
Yeah,
to the same extent.
Yeah, I've seen that so much on doing high rated Edison every day. You do see, I mean, I only look at top 200 players normally, but one thing I will do is if I've got a top 10 player or whatever, and they're playing someone who's just under that 200, then I might feature it if that top player's on something fun and that lower rated player's on Blackwings. And because in my mind, Blackwings is kind of the great equalizer in the format.
Yeah, absolutely. It's and it always has been. It's just one of those things where if it's your day and you take Blackwings to an event, you'll win it, and nothing's going to stop you.
Okay, cool. I think that's. I think there's nothing else spicy about the side deck. Oh, sorry.
No, the only other thing I would sort of mention about the side deck is we talked a bit about Consecrated Light. Now, obviously, in this kind of format, people are bringing multiple copies. 2 to 3 Consecrated Lights. And if you're playing Blackwings, you have to have these 4 cards, in my opinion, in War League. You have to have the 2 Cyber Dragons, you have to have the 2 Fishes, and then the book and the deck dev are kind of icing on top if it's a matchup that you could bring those cards in against. But other than that, yeah, the side deck outside of the techie War League stuff is fairly standard. The Cyber Dragons are pretty normal. The Nox or Mind Control is standard. You usually do one or the other. It's either double knock or knock Raikou. Sorry, double knock or Mind Control Raikou. The dusts are standard. Now, you could cut one because I have one in the main, but I like the 3 dusts post board because if I roll a mirror match or Jake on Gladiator Beasts or Mullet on Gigavise, these dust tornadoes are so valuable. So I tend to go with 3 most of the time anyway. Then the Rugs 2 is usually standard. The Oppressions 2 is absolutely standard, and then the 1 to 2 deck dev. Extra deck, nothing spicy going on there. It is a completely standard extra deck for 1 value Blackwings. If I were playing 2 value, I might be tempted to cut the Mistworm for the 2nd Armor Master. But I find Mistworm may not come up as frequently, but when it comes up, you win the game. Yeah. So I like to just have that there, just the Blizzard Brinkalute Special Borer and finish him, Yeah,
absolutely. I was watching Fraser's 1K tournament the other day, and I saw a Mistworm get Fiendish chained. It was kind of heartbreaking because Mistworm is just one of the coolest cards to summon and win a game with.
And you do expect to win the game when it goes off.
Yeah. Okay, so let's get into the game. Okay, we're in the game with Luke now, and Luke's going to tell us a bit about their opponent and then some of the moves they make. This one we're going to be watching with just show hand because Luke is going to be teaching us how to read what the opponent is doing.
Right, so I'll just quickly start about talking about rock, paper, scissors. Now, these replays are public, so they will go into the War League server and everyone can watch your replays, and we'll watch all of your replays before you play them, and they will be looking for trends in your rock, paper, scissors. So what I tend to do is I roll a dice and I let that pick for me. So my opponent can't kind of outplay me on the rock, paper, scissors on any front. It's completely random. My choice is random. Whether theirs is random or not doesn't affect my choice. So I think it's a little thing, but I think it's quite important if you're not trying to metagame your opponent is that you don't let them metagame you.
Yeah, it's so funny you say that as well, because on the ladder, what I used to do when I played Modern and when I started playing Edison is always pick paper, because paper you would typically win rock, paper. So I did like a spreadsheet for this, and out of 100, I won something like 45. No, sorry, I won 65, 35 rock paper scissors. Because I was picking paper alone, and I was like, that's great. And then I started, as I went up the rankings, I realized people just randomize it. They always pick something else. And now I just pick rock, paper, then scissors, and I just mentally keep track of what one I picked last time and pick an opposite one. But it's funny that even that is checked out in War League, so you guys really are sweating exactly what the right move is.
Yeah, so you've got a bot that you can ask for any team, all of their games. You can see what deck they played, you can see who their opponent was, who won, who lost, and you'll have a link to the replay like right in front of you. So it's so easy to, once you get given your pairing, you can just research your opponent and see what they like to play, and watch how they like to play as well.
Yeah, so who is your opponent for this one?
So JK Dad is, he's been around a while. Now, this account that he's on is actually a fresh ladder account, if I remember correct, but I'm sure I have seen him on ladder before. In any case, I know that he is a Vayu Turbo player. I've seen him play Vayu Turbo in the past, and every week that he'd been picked for his War League team, he had also played Vayu. So I'm expecting Vayu, which is actually quite unlucky for me because I took the Crows out of the side deck, as this team did not field a lot of Vayu. It's just this guy, and he's not fielded that frequently. So I wasn't really expecting this matchup, but now that I've seen my opponent, I'm pretty confident that that's what I'm playing against.
And how do you feel? So you're going into that match then. When you're, so you've obviously been picking Black Wings for this week or this round. Was there any consideration to kind of hybrid Black Wings to try and again metagame? You're playing a really powerful deck, but you're not playing the standard version of that powerful deck. Is there any consideration for that?
So I find hybrid Black Wings less resilient. It's a less defensive deck by nature because you have to slim down your defensive traps, and you may also slim down on Kalut. And if you don't slim down on Kalut, you slim down on the number of Black Wings that can search it for Black Whirlwind. So you have a lot less defense, and what we are looking for is decks that are super resilient, because that the 1/4 deck we bring is going to be heavy targeted. So we want the rest of our lineup to be, they're going to be bringing DD Crows against us. So, I mean, that's partly a good reason to not take hybrid, because it's another card that they're forced to side in. They're forced to side deck against us that they can't bring in. So I'm also much more experienced on Black Wings compared to hybrid as well, and I think that's reason enough. You don't really want to take decks that you're not super comfortable on particularly this war was quite high stakes for us.
Yeah, amazing. You're playing on a fresh account here as well, so
yeah,
I'm assuming that's to try and, well, you put your name in it, so it's not disguising who you are, but obviously not giving any history or matches they can look up.
Yeah, so when your replay's posted, you have to use the same account every week. You're not allowed to use alts. Once the season has started, that account that you've submitted is the account that you have to use. If your account gets banned, you're kicked out of the season, basically. Or if your account gets suspended, you can't play until it's unsuspended.
Okay, so you really can't go throwing around slurs or anything like that.
Oh, no.
That's so unfortunate. We're going with just show hand, not show both hands, because Luke is going to tell us how to read the opponent, how to read the back row, and how to play into this match if you're Black Wings. Got a few legends in here. Archives Veteran, they're currently on that Poly Hero Diva deck. We featured them twice on the channel. Edison is been featured as well before. So a couple of legends already watching.
So that's actually my teammate Jamie, who got top 8 at Worlds last year.
Yeah, fantastic. Okay, so you've opened OK here.
Yeah, so we are going first, and this hand looks pretty good. It's a stick and a load of defensive cards, so it's kind of exactly the kind of hand you want. We've not got the Solemn Judgment to just sure set the yard, but in the matchup that we're in, we're expecting a grind game because by you. So my considerations with this hand: do I summon Shura or do I hold the Shura for a potential Black Whirlwind draw? In which case it will be like a set Dust Tornado pass. Or do I just want to get the tempo on the board, which dissuades them from setting a flip? Because you want to play proactively into my Shura. And then if I do summon the Shura, what am I doing? What am I putting behind it? Because my main concern if I do summon the Shura is Sirocco, because I've got the Kalute that's going to deal with the majority of things that can run the Shura over, but doesn't deal with the Sirocco. So we're left with the decision, do we set the book, do we set the D prison? And do we set anything else? So I'm not going to set anything else. I'm just going to set the one card because I don't want to get randomly blown out by a Heavy Storm Sirocco pump attack. So we'll summon the Shura, and then it's the decision between the D prison and the Book of Moon. And my choice here is the book. The reason being, I'm expecting Vayu, and book is quite an expendable card against Vayu because it's not very good in the matchup, and it's really unfortunate. I've opened with it. As you'll see, it sits on my board for about 10 turns. But it's one of those cards, if he sets a Raikou into me and I attack and he decides that he's going to let the Shura go off, I don't mind losing the book. Or if I attack into a hamster, for example, that this is probably more likely scenario. If I attack into hamster, Kalute over it and bring out the Vayu, attack the Raikou that's brought out by the hamster with the Vayu, he's probably not going to pop the Shura at that point because it's already got its effect off, in which case I can sacrifice the Book of Moon. I'm not too upset about it. So I'd rather preserve the D prison for an Armed Wing or something later on in the game. So we'll set the book. Again, we're going to hold the rest of it because we don't want to lose to Heavy Storm. And then we'll pass to the opponent.
Yeah, and I think book is the card they're least expecting. And if I think about both the Vayu and the Blackwing matchup, the scary opening for me is if I put a Blackwing on the field, if I'm playing Vayu or Blackwings as well, and they start with Sirocco, Special Summon Gale, Pump, like Pump and Halve, Attack, Stardust, you're able to shut all of that down with the book.
Yeah.
So that, yeah, I think, and obviously you're the expert here, definitely the right play. I was also thinking though, maybe I'd set the Icarus. So whatever happens next, and I can, if I don't use the Kalute, I can summon the Kalute, Icarus the field, and try and get back in with Shura, but that's too much. Too early?
It's too heavy. Heavy Sirocco, exactly. And I'm down to 3 cards in hand, and they've got board presence with the Sirocco. I've got to commit my D prison to it. A million things can go wrong. So, I think it's safer to just set the one. If he does Heavy Storm for the 1 card and summon Sirocco, I've lost 1 card. It's not the end of the world. I've still got that Icarus attack to then fall back on the follow up. I can set the Kalute with the Icarus. Or earn the D prison, for example, and use that to claw back into the game. Whereas if it gets blown away by a Heavy Storm, I am in a lot of trouble. So opponent is going to draw. It's quite a straightforward turn. Set a monster, and
we can see what it is, even with hide hand.
We can, but that's the nature of the Jordan book replays.
Yeah. And they're just going to pass. You're going to pick up another Kalute now.
Yeah, so draw for turns Kalute, which is not really consequential at the minute. So
I think they've only set the one to play around the Icarus.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I think that's exactly, and I think that's correct as well. So I've got to now consider what I think that monster is. So as far as I'm thinking about the Vayu matchup, I know it's not Vayu, I know it's not Plague Spreader, I know it's not Necro Gardener, because if you're setting that into Shura,
you're an idiot.
You're just throwing the game.
Yeah.
It's not going to be like a zombie recruiter or a Treeborn Frog if he's on a frog deck. It's not going to be anything that Shura's going to kill for free. So the options that are left over in my mind are Hamster, Raikou, and Duprog. So in all cases, I want to attack because I don't want to, if it's a Raikou, I don't want to leave the Raikou on the board for him to flip, pop the book, Kaius me next turn. If it's a hamster, I've got the Kalute to get over it, and then the Vayu can trade with the Raikou, and then I lose my Book of Moon, as I talked about last time. That's not a big deal. I can set the prison, or I can set the Icarus with the live Vayu body on the board or something like that. It's quite a good spot to be in. I could sync for a summon main phase 2, or he pops the Shura, and it's not the end of the world. If it's a Duke Frog, maybe I Kalute over it to put pressure on. Maybe I don't. It's not really something I'm thinking about when I'm pretty sure I'm playing into Vayu. But at the same time, I'm not upset about flipping it face up. Okay. So we'll attack, yeah. And he's forced to target the Shura because he doesn't want the effect to go off. And so looking at his mills, quite important in each of these cases. So he's milled Gauze, Return, and Deck Dev. So we know it's Value Turbo at this point because we see the Return and the Deck Dev, we've seen the Raikou. I don't think there's another deck in the format except maybe Flip Dragons, but this is not the Flip Dragon player. So I'm confident now that I'm against Raikou. So we know one major threat is immediately gone. I don't have to worry about Return for the rest of the game, which is really important. I know I can attack freely into an empty board for the rest of the game because Gauze is gone. The Deck Dev is not of that much consequence, though my hand is quite weak to it, but generally it's not a stellar card in this matchup. So it just bear that information in mind for sort of later in the game. And this is one of the big things about playing against Value Turbo in particular, that mills a lot of cards, is paying attention to what goes into the graveyard. So now we're in a position where we've got the book face down. We're going to lose tempo by passing here, but I don't see a reason to commit Kalut, which just gets traded by Armageddon Knight, run over by Dark Grepher. I don't want to pitch the second Kalut in my hands to kill a non-threat effectively. So we're just going to pass it up.
Yeah, I was thinking, again, I'm kind of sat here. Not a big Blackwing player. It was the deck I played when I got back into Yu-Gi-Oh! And into Edison. But yeah, I'm immediately thinking summon the Kalut, either set or face-up attack, because you got the other one, and set the Icarus. But again, that would be a little bit too much commitment this early on.
It's a lot to commit, and also it's easy to read, I think, and easy to play around. I don't want to commit to the Icarus until they've committed to put cards on the board, and I know that I'm going to get some kind of value out of it.
So the set Raikou play was really to nullify a set Icarus last turn, but you're now passing without a monster on board, so
yeah. So now behind
no longer reading Icarus.
Quite possibly, yeah. Unless I just didn't have another monster to follow up with.
Yeah. Okay, Charge.
So we're going to assume that Charge is the top deck here, because otherwise he may well have played it last season. Now it's possible that he holds it. It's not guaranteed that you play Charge immediately when you draw it.
Yeah. Okay.
It does play around Deck Devastation, Virus, and other bits and pieces. So let's look at his graveyard again. So again, we're looking at the mills, and this is really important stuff. So he's milled Burial, Plague, and Grepher. So the main things of note are obviously the Burial is, so the Return and the Burial are both out the game now, and that's really big news. The Plague Spread is milled, which is something we're going to have to keep in mind because it's another one of their power cards. And most importantly,
3 darks.
He's on 3 darks, yeah. So we've now got to account for that at all times. So if you look at our hand is actually pretty good into Dark Arms. So a lot of our stuff is chainable, and we've got the Book of Moon face down. So I'm not expecting him to just throw it straight on the board, but if he does, we're ready to deal with it. So anyway, he's going to add the Raikou for the charge, and he is going to, let's move on. So he's going to set a monster and 2 back rows. So
oh, sorry, we're not supposed to know what these are.
That's all right. We will know by a few turns' time.
I'm so used to doing my high rated where everything is known.
Yeah. So that Raikou, that set monster is presumably the Raikou that he added off of the charge. And the reason I would make that assumption is because I think he drew the charge that turn, because I think he would have played it if he had it turn 1. And again, it's not guaranteed that you do that, but in my opinion, that's how this player would play this game. That's sort of the read that I have on the player. So I'm quite confident that that's not going to be a hamster that gets tricky or randomly he's setting a value to try and bait something like an Icarus attack. He's also going to set 2 back rows. Now we don't have a read on these at the moment, so we'll talk about that in a little bit once we've got a bit more information. So we'll go into my turn.
Yeah, are you wishing now that you set the Icarus instead of the book, so you would have normal summon, try and attack?
No, because he's never going to de-prism a normal summon, a Kalut attack the Raikou. So I'm quite happy with where I am. And the draw for turn is Yatta, which is actually really good here because the way I'm thinking I want to play into this set Raikou is set all of my chainable stuff. The more the better, because despite the fact that it's the worst card in my deck against him, the Book of Moon is actually the one I don't want him to hit. So I'm thinking the best play here is to set the Kalut, set the Icarus, set the Yatta, set the Dust. So he's got, if he flips the Raikou and hits the Kalut, then I can chain the Icarus. If he hits the Icarus, I can chain the Icarus. Hits the Dust or the Yatta, I'll chain them. book, unfortunate for me, but I don't think he's going to aim for the book because the turn 1 set of Blackwings is very frequently Yatta. So I think that would be a mistake on his part.
Yeah, and how are you feeling? You've obviously got D-Prison not chainable apart from on an attack there, but Dust Tornado can set that as a bit of a bluff. Like, if this does go off.
I wouldn't set the D-Prison off Dust because we wouldn't be able to use it in the same turn.
Yeah.
So there's no value to doing that because they can't attack into it. I'm not going to set the Prison. Big reason for that. If I set, if I make a board of a set monster and a load of back rows, it's very tempting for him to summon Dark Arm Dragon. And it gets completely destroyed by, everything I've got set. If he targets the Kalut, again, the Icarus will remove it. If he targets the book, I'll flip it face down. There's just too much. He doesn't gain any advantage by summoning it here. So I want to be as safe as possible against the Raikou, but also want to be as safe as possible against the potential Dark Armed.
So we're going to set 3.
Yeah.
Okay, you feeling confident?
So, opponent here, he's reluctant to flip this Raikou. So I think he just passes this turn with no action, if I remember correctly. And that shows really good restraint on his part because he recognizes that when Blackwings does this against a known set Raikou, you're not going to get value out of it by flipping it. You know that my deck is full of chainable cards like Yatta. You may not know about Dust Tornado, but there's an MST in there. There's an unknown number of Yattas, and I'm definitely telegraphing Icarus attack, so you can't target the monster either. So I think he's played that well. So we draw Bora for turn, and we've got a read on Raikou, so I'm pretty happy to trade, for 1,600 damage here and one of my cards. I'd like him to pop the Bora, but I think that's very unlikely. So he is going to... we'll summon the Bora and swing into the monster.
Yeah, what I like about the move last turn as well is that you've actually taken yourself out of Dust Shoot range very early on. So Dust Shoot is, 6 cards in your opening hand. That's the time you're most likely to see it. But then if they see it as card 7, 8, 9, you're also playing around the potential to get Dust Shot mid-game as well, almost when it's more devastating than when you see in an opening hand that's quite strong.
Yeah, we're quite nicely insulated here.
So you're going to go for...
Good.
Oh,
and he's going to roll for a back row. Now, I think you roll for the 3 new ones. I don't think you're ever targeting the book. I think it's fine actually because it's damage step. So anything he hits is going to die here, and I'm not going to be able to chain it. Now, this was probably the worst hit for me.
Yeah. Because
this is the card that's really keeping me safe and able to threaten his board. But we've lost the 1 in 4 there. So mills here are not of a huge amount of consequence, but the Dust Shoot that you were talking about is now gone. The Armageddon Knight is actually quite a big one as well. I will talk about that. And the MST, we know we're not going to get MST'd on our Black Whirlwind for the rest of the game if I'm ever lucky enough to draw well. So I don't know if there's anything that strikes you about the Armageddon Knight mill that's important, but let me know if there is, and I will explain if not.
Well, I think it's not that it's important, but it's not damaging. So, for example, if you saw double Armor Knight or just like another random Greffer or another Dark, you would feel a lot safer because they can't then modulate their Grave Darks to fit Dad as easily. But right now, yeah, they're still within Dad territory because all they've got to do is stack a card and get Plague out of there.
Yeah, so that's pretty much exactly spot on. So Gore's Greffer and Armageddon Knight cannot leave the graveyard unless he's on Chaos Sorcerer.
Yeah.
So if we take a look now at his main deck total, which is 22 plus 12, 34, and then the 6 cards that are in play, he's on 40 cards. So for that reason, I don't think he's on Chaos Sorcerer. So those cards are never leaving the graveyard, which means if I am to get the other Armageddon Knight, a Greffer, a Caius, Gale, for example, into the graveyard, that's Dark Armed Dragon offline for the entire game.
Yep.
So that will be Return, Burial, and Dark Armed that are not going to just sack me, which is brilliant. So that's exactly what I want to see. And then MST and Trap Dust Shoot, that's a bonus. That's really good as well. Other bit of information we got here is that he is confident that this Bora is not a threat. because he popped my back row rather than clearing the borer, which suggests to me that he has a clean out to borer in his hand. So I'm thinking most of the things he can do, for example, Greffer into armed wing, I can book. The only thing I might need to set the prison for here is exactly card Trooper, because Trooper Mill 3 will get over the borer. I do not want to book that because it's just a waste of my book. The Trooper's going to draw a fresh card anyway, and it's potentially going to get value from milling. However, I think the risk of Heavy Storm is much more damaging than the risk of card Trooper getting a +1 over my borer. So yeah. I opt not to split the prison. Now I do have the chainable Yatta, so it's not, it's not a catastrophe, but I'll be losing the Dust Tornado in the book, and they're not gonna be able to pay for themselves in any way. And if any of his cards down there are, if he's randomly on Yatta in his list or something like that, or they're cards that he doesn't want against me, then that Storm's quite scary. So I opted.
There's also potential bluff set Storm and a chainable in there as well. So we don't know what these are at the minute, but I think you're trying to play around the worst eventualities that kill you as opposed to the most likely sometimes.
Yeah, exactly. So we're going to hold on to the prison, and we're just going to accept that card Trooper is a punish.
Okay, they're going up to 5 now, so that's 5 in hand, 2 down.
Yeah, so they've got a lot of cards, and they've top decked and set a monster. So I got a bit of an epiphany on this one that it was a top deck hamster, and I'll talk a little bit about that when we go into my turn and sort of how
if you end up seeing that hamster, it was a top deck. Because like you said, you definitely put the hamster down before the Rykos, and that also kind of tells you that if the hand is still setting now, 3 turns in, the hand's not great.
Mm-hmm. So I've drawn Icarus, which is a really good draw because it replaces the one that I lost last turn, and it's also quite difficult for him to read because, one's gone. Just randomly top deck in the second one. It's just quite fortunate for me. So in my opinion, that's a really good draw. We'll talk about what we can read the set monster as, and we'll talk a little bit about the back rows as well. So we don't have a ton of information, but we've got a little bit.
Sorry, I skipped forward too far. Sorry.
That's all right. So what did I said? Yeah, that's fine. So we know that it's not Plague Spreader because Plague Spreader is already in the graveyard. We can be pretty confident that it's not Card Trooper because he would summon and attack the borer. I think. I don't think there's a world where you don't do that because you get your mills, and at worst, it's going to trade 1 for 1 with the D prison. It's probably not Vayu because he doesn't have a Sirocco live. We've not seen a Graffer yet. And he's just going to take 1,700 off the borer anyway if he sets a value into it. So to me, that leaves the third Ryko, the hamster, or Necro Gardener. So if it's Ryko, we're in the same position as before. Most of our back row is chainable, so we're quite happy to let him flip it. We'd like to attack it, but the risk of it being hamster, I think, is too high. There's no reason to attack the hamster because it's just going to give him more tempo. It will get his Ryko out quicker, whereas if I force him to flip it, I can then run it over, which I can't do if he leaves it face down. If it's Gardener, it's better for me to attack, but I think this is the least likely card. So I think you're looking at 1 Ryko versus 1 to 2 hamsters. Now he is on charge and he's on 40 cards, so I think it's likely it's 1 hamster, not 2. But I'm just saying to myself here, the punish for attacking into hamster is not worth the reward for attacking into Ryko. I think if it's a Ryko, I'm quite happy to leave it face down. If it's a hamster, I 100% don't want to attack into it. So I'm not going to say it's a hard read on hamster, but I'm very happy to not attack, if that makes sense.
I think some of the best value players in the world have kind of come to this consensus that if you get to flip a hamster and it survives, or they have to trade into it to get rid of the body, you've basically won that match because you're getting a Ryko out. You've got a free body for Caius or Synchro plays. You're right, they've already got the Plague online, so you would have to throw the Clue at this to clear it, or use the Icarus to try and clear the body. So yeah, the punish for hamster is just too big.
If he does flip it, I can just punch over it with the Borer before he gets a chance to switch it to defense position. So yeah, I think I will make him flip the hamster if it's a hamster. So we'll talk about the back rows as well. So they've been sat there a little while and they've not done anything yet. So what do we know? It's not Return, it's not Burial, it's not MST, and it's not Dust Shoot. I mean, Dust Shoot would have been played long ago anyway, but these cards are all in the graveyard. So Borer did walk, and it got an attack through. However, Bottomless Prison plays into Icarus. So I'm not confident that they would have flipped either of those cards on the Borer here, unless they had like a Starlight Road as well to go with it. So I'm not ruling out Prison and Bottomless. I think they're still realistic.
Was there any consideration for set Deck Devi, set Sirocco there?
So they didn't set a new card, a new back row. So I'm not really reading Deck Dev. It can be, it's again, it's not something I'm ruling out. So the options I feel like we've got left are the Bottomless or Prison. It can still be Mirror, Solemn, or the tech slot. So you've got one Deck Dev gone. So you know that that last card is the other, whatever other tech they put in that slot, which is either the second Deck Dev, the Oppression, or the Icarus attack. So that's kind of the read that I've got on that at the moment, which isn't a huge amount. The other reason I've got a read on Hamster here is because he opted to set that monster rather than out the Borer with the out that I assume that he's got in his hand, because he popped the back row with the Raikou. So I think he's got something that can deal with this Borer, and he decided it was a better option to set a monster. So that's why, now that I remember, that's why I've got a hard read on Hamster. But I'm also happy to not attack into Raikou, so I think it's really safe to just leave that face down. Then, as we've already done, set the Icarus, because it's another chainable. So if it is a Raikou, again, unless he nails the book, all of these cards are going to punish.
Yeah, okay. And then, so he's picked up a card. He's got 5 cards in hand, 3 on field. You're feeling okay. You've got Icarus down. You've got chainables. Let's see what he goes for now. So
now
Summon Card Trooper is there.
For us. So it's the worst one for me because I didn't set the Prison, and I didn't set the Prison because I feel like the punish for Heavy is a lot bigger than the punish for Trooper. Because worst case scenario here is, worst case scenario for me actually is he flips the hamster and attacks over both my monsters, but he doesn't. He'll leave the hamster face down. So he's going to mill 3, and again, we look at the mills here. They're important again. So the Sirocco mill is big because it means that any value is now online. And the TT is big because I don't have to consider that when I make my plays for the rest of the game. The Prison is kind of, not that important, but it's another defensive piece that he's now lacking. So it is something to bear in mind, but it's not major.
Yeah,
and it's certainly
reducing the likelihood that the other Prison, if they play 2, is in play.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So he's going to obviously attack the Borer, and I've got 3 options. First option is I allow the attack to go through. Second option is I book the Trooper and try and run it over on the follow-up turn. And then third option is I collude the Trooper, kill it right away, do a bit of damage. Now, I don't like any of the options where I trade a card.
Do you not also have Icarus pop the set hamster and the Trooper?
Yeah, which is then a 2-for-1 in his favour because he's going to draw a new card and I'm going to lose my Icarus attack. Okay. And I'm not particularly scared of that hamster because if he leaves it face down forever, he's going to draw that Raikou at some point, and it's just going to be an 1800 defense booty. It's not going to do anything. And also, I would far rather preserve the Icarus attack because the threat of Dad is still quite real. Now, I don't think he has it because I think he would have played it already, but it can be randomly top decked, and if he can get Vayu into the graveyard, he can bring that online. And what makes that scary is that he can get that online, and if I can't clear it with that Icarus attack, he can actually get a level 8 synchro out of the same as well. He can bring Dad Stardust, and suddenly I'm in a lot of trouble. So I would rather preserve the Icarus attack so I can deal with that kind of play. I would like to preserve the book because, I don't think it's that great in the matchup, but trading it for a card Trooper attack feels absolutely horrendous, particularly when this Borer isn't achieving anything, because if I've got a read on that set as hamster, and if it's Raikou, I'm not going to attack it anyway. there's no, this boar is not, it's not pressuring my opponent. So I'm quite happy to let it go here and preserve my defensive cards, particularly the Kalute. I think the Kalute hold is really important. So he's just going to pass. I'm going to draw another Bora, which is actually great. I don't think there's any need to commit the Bora here because I'm in a position where I can flip this Kalute. This gets over the Trooper, which is another reason to not trade a card with it because I've already got a card in play that's expendable that can get over the Trooper. So yes, we went -1 because we lost the Bora to the attack, but we're not in board presence-wise. We're not in a horrendous spot. He's got that. He's got that hamster face down. We're just going to leave that alone until he does something with it. I don't feel like I need to commit any more cards here because, again, I want to keep all my chainables down. The Trooper's gone already, so the deep prison's not really of much consequence here. So this turn, I think, is really pivotal. This is a really important one. So he's going to open with...
So he's got 5 darks in grave, one of which is Plague.
Yeah.
He's got lights and darks. And he's got 6
cards.
But
we're not scared of Sorcerer because he's on 40 cards and it's very abnormal to run Sorcerer in a 40 card Via deck. It's usually 41.
So we let him get to main and first action is Allure.
So he's going to open with Allure. So this is a really good Allure for me. So he is going to go ahead and banish Via. Now, why I like this is the Burial's gone, the Return's gone. So that Via's out of the game now. I don't have to worry about that. So what you'll notice about the way this game is played is that you can't play games like this against Via Turbo very often with Black Wings. You do kind of have to get aggressive with them. But I identified that 2 of his biggest bombs are already gone. So I'm thinking at this point, okay, maybe I'm just going to grind him out of stuff and he's just not going to have the resources to come back. So I'm really happy with that Allure. He's then going to continue his turn.
Big things.
So we're going to rotor 4.
Yeah, I was also going to say the value in hand probably tells you that the hand is definitely not full of spells and traps, otherwise they commit more to the field. It probably has a second value in it.
Quite possibly, yeah. And we are about to find out. So he's going to summon the Greffer and pitch Via send in Sirocco. So now I think I do a little think on resolution. Yeah, sorry, the Gardener, that's right. The Sirocco is already there. So I'm going to have a little think on res here, and I'm not going to do anything, but I'm just considering now, if I kill this Greffer, his Dark Arm Dragon's gone out of the game. So this will put him to 4 darks that don't have the capacity to remove themselves from the graveyard. So, and I don't believe he's on Chaos Sorcerer. So this Greffer is, killing this Greffer is really important. I'm just considering whether I want to do this now, which would be shotgun the Icarus attack and just try and get him, get the Greffer gone. Or do I wait until he starts manipulating his graveyard to 3 darks? And that's obviously the better decision. So there's no need for me to respond to this. So once we've had a little think, we'll let him carry on.
When you're thinking about that, what would your other target have been for Icarus if you did try that?
It's probably the monster.
Yeah.
Just because we want to get the roadblock out of the way. We think it's a hamster, especially as he's left it face down. So fortunately,
you haven't seen the back row do anything yet. So
no.
You've already read that one is oppression. The other one still a bit of a mystery, but
we haven't got a read on the oppression. We know that oppression is a possibility. So the possibilities that we sort of narrowed both cards down to were Bottomless Prison, Mirror potentially if they would let the Borer attack go, Solemn, and what I meant was the tech slot. So it's not to say that one of these cards is definitely the DDV Oppression or Icarus attack, but that's the remaining card in the unknown card in the list. So I've not got a read on Oppression just yet.
Are you thinking Solemn with straight 40?
Solemn is definitely an option. So I mean, Solemn is in the deck for sure, and it's definitely a card I'm considering just because of the low activity. He's not done anything with it. I probably wouldn't set Solemn that early, but it's definitely a possible card. Although saying that, did he set it before or after the Gauze got milled? I can't actually remember.
He set it before the Gauls got.
Yeah, in that
no,
case,
sorry, Gauls was on the first set of mills. Yeah, he said it after the Gauls was milled.
Yeah, then Solomon is quite realistic, quite a realistic possibility. I don't think you'd set that Gauls still alive. So we're quite happy here because he attacks into our Kalut, and that means I don't have to expend the Icarus attack to clear this Grapha, which I really don't want to do. I'd rather preserve that card because it's super powerful. So this is now put into 4 darks that he can't remove from the graveyard unless he's got the Chaos Sorcerer that we do not believe he has. So that's another bomb out of the game. Return, Burial, Dad are all gone. So he's going to go ahead and set 2 back rows. Now, okay, yeah. Oh, this. So
Sorry,
what I'm aiming to do here is I want to simplify the game down a lot. So what I'm going to sort of try and do is take the 2 new cards and take the monster. So I will leave the 2 cards that he's had set since the beginning of the game. I leave those down because they've not interacted with me, and he obviously can't chain the new ones. So if there's an MST or something like that, I'm safe from that. So we'll randomly dust one of them, which I think I'll go for the one on the left, which is Mirror Force.
You flip the coin there as well to indicate that you're only really going to take one of these.
Yeah, just in case he wants to stop that, or we'll flip the Icarus as well, and we'll take the monster and the one on the right.
Okay, so you've outed Mirror Force TT, one of the bottomlesses, and a D prison. So what are you looking at that back row thinking now? Again,
so this
really
gives
inactive.
a lot more information. So Bottomless Mirror implies that they're not defensive cards, because I don't think you're setting Bottomless and Mirror Force next to Bottomless or D Prison. I think that would be a mistake, because one Bottomless is enough against Blackwings. There's that Bottomless is going to turn skip me, so I'm pretty confident there's not another Bottomless down, and I'm pretty confident that there isn't a D Prison down, because I don't think you'd set a Mirror Force next to a D Prison. So that narrows it down now to a few, and the Mirror's gone as well, right? So that narrows it down to one of them is probably Solemn Judgment, and the other one is either Deck Dev, Oppression, or Icarus Attack. So,
and
I don't think
just a question from me, I guess. So there's your assumption 100% of the time is that the opponent is playing optimally. Now, one thing I've kind of picked up, watching as much Edison content as I do, being involved in like the high rated community, is that a lot of the time, the best players aren't infallible, but one thing they might sometimes do is make the surprising play that might be suboptimal to try and get an advantage from the unexpected nature of that play. So when you're going into this, are you thinking they're 100% playing correct, or are you expecting some kind of janky double set bottomless to try and cut you off?
So I don't think every player is going to play optimally, but I think the players that are in War League in general are going to play well enough not to make an error like setting double bottomless or Mirror Prison next to each other. So I'm quite confident now, especially with one D Prison already gone, and that one bottomless gone. There's only one each of those left. So with that, and knowing that my opponent is competent, I don't think I think I'm quite happy with the read that's Solemn plus Tech, which is either Oppression, Deck Dev, or Icarus. Now I think we can rule out both Deck Dev and Icarus because he didn't make an Armed Wing, and if he'd have made an Armed Wing, and I'd have flipped a Bottomless, or he attacked with it and I'd flipped a D Prison, he can chain the Icarus attack or he can chain the Deck Dev. So I see no reason for him to not summon the Armed Wing on the previous turn if that's either Deck Dev or Icarus. So I'm pretty confident at this point that those 2 cards are Solemn Judgment and Royal Oppression. That's sort of where we are with it.
Yeah, and in the hand, so my read at the minute, tell me if I'm wrong, Sirocco is a possibility. There's only one in grave at the minute, and he's not summoned. He's never had no monster on the field so far to summon it and get that involved.
But you've taken this down to 4 cards each, 2 sets.
Yes,
two in
simplified
hand.
down a lot, which does favour Blackwings. I think Blackwings plays better in a simplified game state. Now, let's bear in mind he is actually +1 because he has the Armed Wing ready to go.
Yeah. Oh, and the Armed Wing, you're right. Yeah.
Yeah. So the Plague is, the Plague's not advantage, but it's a threat. But the Armed Wing is a straight +1.
Yeah, this graveyard's really fully set up in that case, right? They've got Armed Wing, they've got Gardener, and they've got Plague, but they haven't got Dad, and they can never have Dad now.
Yeah, and that's another card that could be in his hand that he could have drawn over the past turn or two. But I think if he'd drawn it last turn, he would have maybe held back on the Greffer and waited. So I don't think Dad's there yet. Now, I haven't actually looked at his hand, so I've obviously watched this replay, but not looked at. I'm not 100% sure what the cards in his hand are. So we draw a Law, which is not a great draw. My thinking here.
I went too far.
That's right. So my thinking here is we want to hold this a Law because we've got a pretty decent read on oppression here. So we want to hold this a Law for a Blizzard because Blizzard is completely unplayable without Whirlwind at this point because I would need to be able to chain block the oppression. So I also Bora's quite, he's on 4/3, so Bora's actually a 3-turn clock. It's quite a lot of pressure here. So I don't want to risk playing a Law, hitting air, and then having to banish my Bora. In any case, flipping this Yatta is obviously the first play. It may be that we should have done this earlier, but I did like keeping it face down when he had a set monster. And of course, we can see that I've still got the book set from turn 1. So we draw Mirror Force, which is good enough. So we can start
that Sirocco play that I'm currently worried about.
Yeah, and we can protect the castle a little bit now. So we've got the book down, and we're going to summon the Bora. This is a bit of pressure. Now, when this doesn't get met with a bottomless or a deep prison, I'm 100% sure that the 2 back rows are Solomon Oppression. So we're going to push the 17. So that's now him on a 2-turn clock. And we're going to set one of these traps behind the Bora. I'm expecting the Armed Wing plus swing, which the deep prison is a cleaner out than the Mirror Force because it's obviously going to deny the follow-up Armor Master from his next value. So opponent's going to draw to 3 and attempt to brain control the Bora. So now I have a read on Caius in hand, which is absolutely devastating for me because my set is a battle trap. So I'm not letting this happen.
We're going to book the Bora. Yep.
We are finally going to get value out of the book, and I can't see that this book is going to get any more value than that in this game. So I think that's a really decent use of the book. It is unfortunate because we now don't have the battle step book to deny a potential solemn judgment on my D prison, but we do have the Mirror Force, so it's not super scary. So he's going to make the Arm Wing and swing. We'll flip the prison, which is exactly what we set it for. I think he's going to have a think about this one, whether he wants to let this through or not, and he's going to play the Solemn.
How are you feeling? Solemn's come down. You've got some power cards in hand, but you're losing your monster. How are you feeling at this point?
Yeah. So I need to find something. I'm obviously not in a great spot, and there's something really important about this Solemn Judgment, and I'll see if you can spot it. That's insanely frustrating.
It takes him down to 9.
Yes, it's one pay on Morel Oppression, which is, again, my Blizzard is still not live. So it's possibly the most frustrating Solemn of all time. And I'm in a rough spot now, but, we don't need to find much. Any Dark Monster is pretty good here. So
You're really high on life at the minute as well. So you've got a turn without access to Dad. We don't think they're playing Sork. The graveyard's not that set up at this point, even though it's got the Plague. You're not really in danger territory of dying, right?
Right, and his only outs to my Mirror Force would be to tribute for Caius or his Heavy Storm. And when he's got his own background.
You've read the Caius, so that is a consideration now.
For sure, but if he wants to, risk Caiusing into a bottomless trap hole when it's the only card on the board, then I mean that's a risk I'm going to have to take. Yeah, I don't see a world where I don't set the Mirror Force. Because what he could also do is just summon an Armageddon Knight alongside this. And granted, that's going to be pretty crap for me to Mirror Force in terms of what it does to set up his graveyard, but it is going to save me 3,700 life, which is, pretty much half of what I've got, which is quite important.
Yeah, and he doesn't really have the hand size to make a Brio, pitch cards to try and clear up a back row. You're picking up BrainCon here of your own.
Yes,
you've
this
got a
isn't.
law there.
Yeah, I'm not in a position where I have to fire this Allure. I've got 7,800 life points and a Mirror Force that, it's not going anywhere. And if he does decide to Caius it, I know there's no Armageddon Knight coming down. It would have to be Caius and the. No, I mean, there's not even a Grepher play because he would have to. He wouldn't have enough cards to special summon the Grepher and picture cards to get another value into the graveyard. So what is important here as well, if we look in his banished zone, is that 2 values are gone. So he's really only got one huge threat left in his last value. So if I can out this Armed Wing, I'm in quite a good spot as long as I don't let him tribute summon Caius. So we'll just set the Mirror Force and pass here. I think this is a fine play.
He's going up to 3 cards now. You're a little bit low in terms of, board presence, cards in hand. They've got the grave setups, but you're feeling still pretty confident. They're down to 9 cards in deck. A lot of their power cards are out of play. You're still feeling confident at this point?
I've got a lot of good draws, especially with the Allure in my hand. So if I pick up, a Blackwing that's not a good draw, like a Blizzard, I know that I'm going to see another 2 cards.
Yeah, so you eat that attack. You think on the Mirror Force as well there. Is there any kind of bluffing that you're doing here? I don't think it was ever a consideration to just Mirror Force.
No, so the think on the Mirror Force is more to tell him that it's not a battle trap, because I've got a read on this Caius, and I want to. If I just take that damage, I think that telegraphs a battle trap more than because it looks like I'm. But I mean, that could go either way.
It's
I
the
think
Uno reverse.
I'm just sort of considering: is it ever worth flipping this Mirror Force here? And I decide it wasn't. So
Blizzard probably the worst draw.
Well, I'm quite happy to draw Blizzard because I've got the Allure in hand, and this is what we were holding the Allure for. So if I'd have lured off this Borer, we'd been in a really horrible spot. As it happens, we held it because we wanted to pair it with the Blizzard because we're 100% sure that there's a Royal Oppression face down. Now, if I've got any other read on that card, I'm slamming the Blizzard here all day. Probably going to Brain Controller Maker, Stardust Dragon or something like that with another guy on the board, attack the set monster. It's either the last Vayu or the last Raikou. I don't think there's anything else it can be. So Stardust is going to just beat that in,
You've read only one hamster. Was there ever a consideration for Blind Allure, like last turn when you just had it up there? Because I'm just noticing you've not seen that many monsters this game, and you got 25 in deck.
I'm too healthy to work with the Mirror Force to really worry about losing next turn because he just doesn't have access to his power cards that can OTK me from zone 7-6 or 7-8.
7-8.
Yeah, 7-8. So I was never. I think a Blind Allure there would have been an error. No, it probably would have been okay because I would have drawn into the Blizzard, but it would have been a mistake.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see what you do here. So big think.
Yeah, so now I'm just mentally checking, is that definitely oppression? And I've decided, 100% that's Royal Oppression, that can't be anything else. So we draw into 2 really good cards.
Jeez, because I mean, this Mirror Force can get off the board with any attack, making Gauze insanely hidden, but very live. And this Sirocco is just really huge.
Powerful. Sirocco is really powerful in the matchup. The only gripe I have with the Sirocco is that he has a Necrogarder in his graveyard. So I kind of have to commit to Brain Control this turn because I am reading that face down as Raikou here because it can only be one of 2 cards. Unless he's randomly set an Armageddon Knight or a Gale, which would be maybe when you're on 900 life, that is a consideration. But he has the Gardener, so I don't ever think he's doing that. So we'll banish the Blizzard and just have a little think about how we want to sequence this turn. And I don't think it's safe to summon the Sirocco, pump and attack because I think that Raikou is going to flip and clear the Mirror Force. And then if he has his own Sirocco or, mills the Vayu or anything like that, then I'm in a lot of trouble. So we are going to Brain Control.
We're going for the Brain.
We're going to attack because there's no point using my own monster here. Now, this is going to incentivize him to clear the Mirror Force, but I think he would probably have done that anyway.
Yeah, I mean, he's just going to do that in his turn.
What this also allows me to do, so he does mill the last value and the Sirocco, although he's going to have the Armwing to pair with it anyway. So that, you know, the Sirocco is not really of consequence. The Caius is interesting because I know that there's only one more in his deck, most likely. So that's one of the. So the only threats I've now got left to worry about are. So he's got 9 cards left, and we can pretty much nail those down to Sirocco Gale, the Last Armageddon Knight, the Dead Dark Arm Dragon, the remaining Caius, the 2 traps, the Bottomless and the Deep Prison, and the Royal Oppression, which we're pretty sure is on the board, and then the Heavy Storm, which he hasn't used yet. So at this point, I am pretty confident that if I can stick this Gauze and stop him from sticking a monster for Caius, I probably win the game.
And Plague is in there, so there's also level 6 plays they have access to, level 7 plays.
Yeah, so this was an interesting point with the Allure as well, actually. There was a consideration to banish the Sirocco, to summon the Blizzard, force him to 100 life, which then means the Oppression's face up, he can't use his Plague Spreader. But I decided with the Raikou face down, or the likely Raikou face down, it was kind of too dangerous because this Gauze is not going to solo if the Raikou is just going to blow it up, and you know the token is only going to be, say, trade with the monster that's on the board.
Yeah.
So I think the Blizzard banish was correct here. So main phase 2, we have identified that there is a Sirocco left in his deck, so we are not going to put this Sirocco face up because I will just die to make an summon Sirocco, make an Armor Master. If he can get another Vayu into the graveyard, then
it's already.
Oh yeah, sorry, yeah, sorry. So yeah, it's literally just summon Sirocco, make an Armor Master, pump, and I'm dead. So, or I'm on 200, and 200 is not a place I want to be where my last card is Gauze.
So they're at 3 cards. The best one is probably Armor Knight, right?
Yes.
That works with Plague. So Armor Knight or Caius here work with Plague and set them up pretty well.
Yeah, now Caius would be insanely punished if he went for that. He would just.
Oh yeah, because you'd hit him with the burn damage and kill him. So
yeah,
if it's Caius, Caius comes out, banishes your Sirocco, you no longer have anything on field. Gauze in hand reflects does the same burn damage to them and summons, you'd win the game.
Yeah, so it kind of
they would have the potential oppression for that though.
You can't because it's damage step. Oh, sorry, it's not. No, you're right. It's not damage step, is it? Yeah.
So it's the effect one, yeah.
Yeah, so I would have to wait until battle there.
Yeah. Okay.
So he is going to make an Armed Wing. So instead of going for the Arm Master, he goes for the Armed Wing. So this is a synchro play. So he's going to stack for play. And I'm thinking the only thing I don't want to see is Colossal Fighter. And I think Colossal Fighter would have ended me here. But he's on 900 and Mirror Force is gone. So this thought rule is actually pretty safe. So he's going to put himself back to 29.
Yeah, I mean, they're definitely aware that this is a Sirocco, right? You can't really tribute set any other. You've not got any other 5 or 6, so they're confident they know what that is.
Yeah. So we are going to draw. He's going to set another back row. So my read on that is either a Bottomless or a Prison, which is actually quite unfortunate for me because Prison in particular is an annoying card because it will nail my Gauze. But we draw the absolute nut card that we could have drawn in this situation, which is the MST, because that's going to mask the Gauze in my hand and it's going to deal with the fresh set. We're obviously going to ignore the Oppression because it can. At this point, there's zero shot that it's anything else. So it's just it's a simple enough turn. Just set the MST and pass. He's going to immediately attack. So easy flip the MST, target the fresh set, which does turn out to be the Bottomless. So his one defensive card left in the deck is the Prison. we are going to drop the gauze. Summon a 27 token.
So nice. So
Yeah.
nice. And you've been planning that as well for a couple of turns.
Yeah, so this gauze has gone absolutely crazy here. So now we're in a position where, you know, if he can't deal with this body, I don't even need to kill him. So this D prison that he's got left in the deck, as long as I find a monster to play alongside this, he's never going to stick a body for this, you know, this Caius. So at this point, I'm looking at his hand as probably being the Dead Dark Arm Dragon and the Caius that I've got to read on. I don't think there's a chance, because I think a lot of the other cards he would have played, he could still have Gale, but he might have special summoned it to put more pressure on there.
Yeah. Well, I think even just normal summoned it after the gauze come down to half. One of them is half the gauze is also pretty good. But yeah, because that's gonna then make you have to crash. So you know it's not Gale. You know it's not D Prison because it wasn't set. Of the remaining cards, you probably think. I mean, you're thinking Caius Dad.
Yeah, because I think Sirocco was an easier play than to make Armed Wing.
Yeah, I think so too.
But he did just want to gain the life for this Thought Ruler, which is respectable. So I think I can't 100% say Dad. I'm pretty sure that that Caius is there. So obviously Mirror Force is gone, and we're 100% sure this is oppression. So we'll switch both to attack position. Really, there's only one decision to make this turn, which is do we set the Black Whirlwind? And the decision that I came to is, if he's got to play, he's going to do it, regardless of whether I've got a bluff set or not. So I see no reason to set the Black Whirlwind. I might as well just keep it in my hand, because it's just safer if there is a heavy storm. You know, I would rather have the play off the back of that. I know there's no bottomless left, so whatever Blackwing I play is going through. The only other thing I was considering was the order of attacks. I would rather trade the gauze, because it's a little scarier into the Caius burn damage, and it's got weaker stats than the token. However, he's going to necro block that attack, and I think that's a mistake. I think you just take the 2k here. Sorry, you just take the 2/7 here, leave yourself on 200, because I think he's got to identify at this point that his win condition is to stick a monster for Caius. And unless I find a monster, he needs to be able to set something, protect it, and then Caius me. So I have to find a monster that can attack over it, and as you will see on my turn, I actually don't. So him using that Necro Gardener, I think, is sort of a misstep, in that he's not identified what his win condition is here. So he's now forced to set the Armageddon Knight, which would have been great if he still had the Gardener and 2,700 less life points. I would actually be in a really rough spot. I'd be able to bottomless the Caius, but it's quite scary. But now that we're in this position, all of his threats are gone. So all I've got to worry about is him being able to stick a monster and set the D Prison behind it before I find a monster that I can normal summon. So that's the Armageddon Knight. He's got 7 cards left, which are the Dead Dad, the Caius, which I presume are in his hand, the Oppression that I presume is face down, the Heavy Storm, the remaining D Prison, and the Gale. Now I think there is another mistake this turn.
You just quickly, you set the bottomless. You're confident that they can't stick a monster, but on the occasion that they're playing something really spicy like a main deck Cyber Dragon for the Caiuses, you want to make sure that you're going to be insulated. You're going to take the 1,000 burn damage, but you're going to get the Caius off the board as well.
I would probably just bottomless the summon and leave the Caius in his hand, because I'd rather keep my Gauls. And I don't see any reason not to set it. I don't think it's really going to be applicable to much else in his deck. But yeah, if there's something like that Miracle Dig or something like that, I mean, I'd probably lose the game anyway in that case. But just, random little text that could get the Caius online.
You're also kind of inviting them to use the heavy if they do get it right, and that would then take their what we think is oppression and what I've hovered over several times and we know is oppression out of the way. And then if you did top deck another Blizzard, you would have that. So regardless of what they pick up, you're in a better position for having set the bottomless.
Yeah. Now the Blizzard is quite safe anyway, because I've now got the Black Whirlwind, so I can chain block the oppression, but obviously I can't synchro summon. So this, I think, is quite a huge mistake. He set the Gale. Now, I think you summon the Gale and half the Gauze here, because you're only going to be taking, 150 damage as opposed to 0, but your clock,
increases by a turn.
This Gauze is massive, whereas it could be a 1450, which could be the difference. I don't think it is. Now he's found so this is a little scary because that could be D-Prison. But I'm in an all right position anyway, because if I swing in its D-Prison, okay, if he does put a monster in play, I've got the Whirlwind Sirocco, to back it up. But again, I'm not particularly afraid here because I don't think he has another monster to play, because I'm pretty sure his remaining monsters are Dark Arm Dragon, Caius, and Sirocco, which cannot be played if he removes my guy from board. We flipped the Yatta anyway that we drew last turn, and we hit Heavy Storm, so now we win the game because we have Heavy into Tribute Sirocco, any Blackwing that could just end it. So I think he's just going to scoot to the end. So that is game 1. It was a bit of a long one. We'll talk a little bit about siding before we go into game 2. It's quick. I'll be honest. It's not a massive deal because I didn't have the Crows. So I took out the Book of Moon. Obviously, it's not good in the matchup, and I tend to take out Mirror Force against Fire Turbo because it rarely goes better than 1-for-1 anyway, and it will get ground out by a Ryoko, and putting their beaters into the graveyard doesn't help because the next one is ready to take its place. It's just D-Prison's a much better card in this matchup. So those are my 2 side outs and the 2 side ins with a Nox. I'm going second. Nox really powerful. I would probably side them in going first as well, just because the flip engine is really what you're scared of when you play Blackwings into this. If they're playing face up, you're quite happy. If I were going first, I would cut 1 Yatta for the deck dev, again, just to get that flip engine out of the game as quickly as possible.
So I have a question then. What are you expecting being sided in for you? You're only putting in the 2 Nox, but you're probably expecting what? Trap
I'm
holes?
expecting... No, not in Fire Turbo. I think that's more of a Gladiator Beast tech, because they're very... that matchup is so reliant on keeping the opponent's monster off the board, and Blackwings is so popular. I don't think many other decks will be siding Trap Hole. The standard value side for Blackwings is 3 Dust Tornadoes. That's quite often it. They might have a random techie monster. I know James Ark likes the Jiu-Jitsu Master that he sometimes sides, but I think he's off that now. I'm not a huge fan of that, because if you can end up in a situation where you set the Jiu-Jitsu Master and the randomly top deck a Black Whirlwind Shura, hit the Jiu-Jitsu Master, and now you're really pressured to remove the Whirlwind, or they can keep bouncing the Shura off of the Jiu-Jitsu Master and just accumulating Blackwings, basically. It's neutral advantage, but it is problematic because it gives them a huge amount of burst over a few turns if you're in a simplified game state. So I'm really only expecting 3 Dust Tornadoes, which I will sort of talk about when we look at his turn 1 play.
And when you're playing these games as well, are you in voice chat rooms with your team? Because I can see that watching.
No, you're not allowed to do any coaching in War League, so you're 1 versus your opponent.
Yeah,
we'll have a pre-match discussion and a post-match discussion where we'll sit and do the replay together. But no, you can't be in a call during the game.
Okay. Okay, the hand is interesting.
Yeah, so the hand's pretty weak because it doesn't have a monster, but it's the kind of hand that can survive if it gets, if they start to get aggressive. We do have some defense. So the T-set is about the worst thing that can happen, especially as we can see it's a hamster. No, I don't have a read on that. I don't have a read on the back row either because we have no information. However, I am expecting 3 Dust Tornadoes sided in, and there's an MST in the deck. So there are 4 copies of Destroy 1 back row in the deck. So it is the most likely thing for it to be, but I'm not in any way making that read because, it's turn 1. Now, the most sensible thing for me to do here is to just set the Mystical Space Typhoon because I'm probably reading that monster at the minute as a Ryko, and I want to set the chainable card. So
it gets through. I've done it again. It gets through. So are you thinking probably not MST, probably not Dust Tornado?
Not necessarily, because I am my thinking is that he probably expects me to set something like Yatta into a set monster. He's good enough to know that I'm not going to set a real card into a D set, so I don't think it's worth it to him to flip a Dust Tornado here or an MST here. I would expect him to hold it, which is why I expect to get value out of this MST. So he's just going to pass turn. So he's, again, reluctant to flip the monster, which doesn't really give me the read that it's hamster, because, again, I don't think I think he's a smart enough player to not flip Raikou into a card that I have purposely set into a set monster. So now we draw Sirocco, and it's quite an awkward draw because it gives us a play, but it gives us a play that I don't really like, which is to summon it and swing into the hamster, or to T-set with the Icarus. Which it gets nailed by the Dust Tornado. So I'm just going to set the Icarus, which gives me a follow-up with Sirocco next turn. And sure enough, it is a Dust Tornado. Now, again, we didn't have a hard read on that, but it's not something that we're particularly surprised to see. I'm a little bit concerned about this Dust Tornado being fired here, because it now gives him the flip onto the Raikou flip onto my MST. However, A, it's not a Raikou, and B, if it was a Raikou, he may still be reading this as a Yatta and not want to waste that flip. So he's going to set one back row and pass. So in this position, we're in pretty much exactly the same position we were in last turn. So we're just going to make the exact same play, which is to set the Icarus for the potential follow-up.
6 cards in hand, a hamster down, or a set down rather, because we don't know it's a hamster yet. How are you feeling going into this turn? That could be really bad.
So if he's got an aggressive hand, I'm in a lot of trouble, because he can, I've got nothing. I've got no real defense down. He doesn't know that though, so he's going to play passively, and we are going to see his hand soon. And if he had played this more aggressively, I would undoubtedly have been dead. So we're going to draw the Trap Dust Shoot here, which is obviously an incredible draw, because I can see what I'm dealing with and I can play the match accordingly and play around his hand. So
yeah, you don't think that set as another Dust Tornado or MST, because they would have gone for your second Icarus probably.
Yeah, I think so. And I would probably be setting this Dust Shoot regardless, because the payoff is far too high if it does go through. I don't think there's any reason to hold it. And we're going to shotgun it in his standby phase, because I don't want him to start doing stuff, and I want to get all the information. So if we go look at his hand now, so we can see it's very
a really aggressive hand.
Yeah, 2 Grappa, 2 Sirocco, Gale, Raikou, and Brain Control. So I've got to send one of the Siroccos here, because actually if I don't, he can OTK me, because he's got 7,000 damage in his hand, and he's got 1,100 damage set. Now, I don't know that he's got 1,100 damage set, but he could just go off, make the board, flip the hamster, and kill me. He doesn't know that, and probably wouldn't do it. But if I send one of the Siroccos, that play is sort of taken offline, because he can't set up the multiple Graphas on board, etc., or the huge number of monsters on the board that he needs to do that damage. So we're just gonna...
for Grapha put back, because the double Grapha line is what OTKs you, right?
Yes, but multiple Grapha in hand is actually really bad, because that for example, if I leave one Grapha and he decides to go summon Grapha, pitch Sirocco, send Vayu, make an Arthwing, that does whatever he does, and he's got another Sirocco in hand, if I deal with his board, that Sirocco is still a threat, especially as I'm playing Blackwings, whereas the Grapha is a brick. It's not good against what my deck can do, unless he's got another useful dark to pair it with. So I would rather leave him with the double Grapha and remove the actual threatening card. He also can't special summon the Grapha and then, pitch a good card if I take one of the Siroccos.
Yeah, you're forcing them to pitch a Gale, which is really good in this matchup.
Yeah. So I'm quite surprised with the way he plays his turn, which is, so we'll turn his hand off now anyway. Show hand you want so we can see ours. So I'm quite surprised he doesn't set the Raikou here. He just passes, and that's really unfortunate.
Absolute bomb.
Now this isn't useful here though, because I've I'm not going to knock this card because I've seen that he's got a Raikou in hand. I now don't think that's a Raikou face down because I see no reason why you wouldn't just flip it, pop something, and you can set the other Raikou, or you can set the two Raikous alongside each other. But I'm pretty sure at this point that it's the hamster face down. He's been so reluctant to flip it, which, you know, flipping hamster into Black Wings is generally a mistake because the 1800 body is quite hard to deal with, and it really plays hard into Shura. So, you know, props to him for leaving it face down, but that does give me a read on it.
Are you surprised he didn't set the Raikou? Or
I am quite surprised he didn't set the Raikou, and if he had, he would have got very badly punished. However, I'm in a position now where I know what his hand can do, so I figure I need some real defense. I don't think there's a Raikou face down, so I'm just going to set the bottomless past turn, and that's going to kind of deal with whatever kind of follow-up he's looking at.
Okay, I mean, they're drawing up to 7 cards now with double Greffer in hand. That's worrying, but you know everything.
You know, the second Greffer is not really of consequence. I also, the other reason the bottomless set is pretty safe is because I know there's no heavy storm. Now, he's magically read that I've top deck knock, which is insane, and flipped this hamster. There is actually a reason he's flipped the hamster here, which we'll go into in a second. But
it's because he's got synchro players, yeah.
Right, so this is the top deck, and he's going to send Necro Gardener here, which makes the hamster safe because he can Necro and attack. Like if I find Shura, he can Necro that. So
yeah, I was thinking it was for synchro lines, but yeah, this is good too. This puts you under a bit of pressure now.
So the way he's been playing, I'm not expecting a plague move here because he's playing scared of TT. So I think the Gardener is quite sensible. Now, whether you agree with the flip hamster or not, I'm not 100% on whether that's correct because you don't really want the Gardener to get forced. But if you're committing Armageddon Knight anyway, then the Shura's got a target. So I think it's fine.
And what are you reading now? What do you think he's reading for your back row?
I don't. Well, he knows there's no torrential now because I would have flipped it on the Armageddon Knight. I'm not. You know, he hasn't committed anything he's committed nothing that I can bottomless. He's committed nothing that's worth using a battle trap on. So I don't think he's got really any read on anything that I've got set.
Okay. We think. I think we said that he thinks that the middle one, which is MST, is probably an MST because we said we were setting it into
or a Yatta. So I would.
Or a Yatta, yeah.
I would be more inclined to read a Yatta there. It does know that I'm on main deck Dust Thunder. So we draw the Shura, which could actually be absolutely nuts, but because he set up that Necro Gardener, it isn't. But we are going to go aggressive now. So we'll flip the MST to make sure there's no bottomless, which is exactly what we're set. But we're not going to commit the Shura into Gardener. We're going to commit the Sirocco and just start chipping. Now, bear in mind that I am aware that his hand contains Brain Control and Gale. So I am expecting him to Brain Control my Sirocco here. So I have to knock this Raikou so that he can't pop my Icarus attack first. And there's no better target here anyway because I know the other Raikou's in his hands. One's going to get banished from the deck and I've got one left to deal with. It's unfortunate for me that you flipped the hamster. So I need to protect this Icarus attack from the Raikou so that I can chain it to his Brain Control, which is what we're going to do. And we know that his follow-up is likely to be Greffer, Pitch, and make Armed Wing, and we've got Bottomless for the Armed Wing, and that's just going to leave a Greffer, which my Shura beats. Obviously, he still has the Necro Gardener, but I think it's fine to pressure him there.
And how are you feeling? Because if this Brain Con comes off, which it does, they've still got their normal summon, they've still got a Sirocco Greffer play in hand.
Which is 100% going to happen and is going to get met with a bottomless trap hole.
Yeah.
So we'll flip the Icarus here to stop the level 8 Synchro, which is presumably what he's going to go for. And we'll eat 1700 from Greffer if he's not traumatized by the Gauze soloing him in the last game.
Yeah, I was going to say, are you expecting Armed Wing here? You are.
Yeah, 100%. You want. Yeah, I'm on 5/5. You push 4000 here. It's massive. So we're forced to bottomless here. Turns out that he was traumatized from the Gauze the last game,
And he's not attacking here, just going to set.
He's not going to attack me, so he's just going to set one and pass. Now, I've got no read on that because that's the top decked card. So he's managed to play 2 cards that he's top decked, which is, in a way, it's good because it means that I don't have a read on what his set card is. But in a way, it's bad because it means I still know that the 3 cards in his hand are Brain Control, Gale, and the second Greffer.
Yep.
So top deck
No, sorry, we think it's Raikou Gale because Brain Control.
Sorry, yeah. Yeah, exactly, yeah. So
Raikou Gale, Greffer in hand, new card set, which could be what have we gone through here? I mean, it could be anything, right? It could be the other bottom.
Yeah, so the main concern is the second bottomless or the deep prison. So I'm going to have to commit my heavy storm here. I don't really think I've got a choice.
It's
actually a really good hit because that would have killed me. So I'm quite happy to see that go. We're going to swing into the Necro Gardener, and this is an interesting moment here. So I know he's got a Gale in hand, and I know that he can Black Rose me. So it's the toss up of do I set 1 and you try and make him play a nice game, but then he's going to set the Raikou, or he's going to go into Armor Master, and if he goes into Armor Master in defense, it's a bit of a pain in the ass. Or do I try and make him commit to the Black Rose, which does put me behind on cards, but it simplifies the game state down when my deck's more powerful. So I do actually opt to set both cards here, which in hindsight I think is a mistake because this Black Rose does put me behind.
Yeah, I guess the Black Rose does, but you've got Brain Con in hand, which is really strong. And like you said, in a simplified game state, you're expecting to win.
Yeah, if I start drawing Blizzards, Sirocco's when he starts making boards and things like that, whereas he's got 1 Armageddon Knight left, which is an insane top deck, and Burial, it's his bombs basically that he needs to find.
He's going up for 4 cards, 3 of them. You're not really that worried about too many of them, so yeah, let's see what they go for. Looks like they are going to make the play.
Yep. So we're going to see a 6,000 defense Shura, which probably drops to 600. And yeah, he's going to go into Black Rose, which is...
Yeah, was there part of you that was trying to bluff Starlight here?
No, I think that would be really bold because it's not a good card against Vayu.
Yeah.
But I mean, Vayu can barely even make this card, and then it's just TT Mirror and Storm. So we actually draw the worst possible card here, which is the Vayu. So I had to deliberate for ages what I wanted to do with this because the obvious play is to summon an attack. But he's just going to summon the Greffer and attack back into me if I do that, which it doesn't help. Whereas, I push 800 damage and I take in 900 damage back and the guys die. It's not a good trade for me. I think I would rather protect my own life, set the Vayu, which also bluffs maybe I sided in a Mind Control on the Raikou. So it could be a Raikou. Oh, no, it can't be a Raikou actually because I've knocked Raikou, so there's no shot that it's Raikou. But it could bluff some random piece of side deck tech, and I would just rather preserve my life. So I opt to set here rather than summon.
And you're saying that's the worst card, but you do have Sirocco Engrave already.
Yeah, I would rather just have something that's proactive and actually. I mean, maybe Kaluk would have been worse, but it could have kind of got me somewhere down the line. It's just sort of. It may not be the absolute worst option, but it's a pretty bad draw.
Knowing all 3 cards in hand, or knowing, 2 of the 3 cards in hand, was there ever a consideration for bluff set Braincon to bluff Vayu Icarus, knowing that they probably aren't going to have spell and trap removal?
I think if I do that, he still can just summon the Greffer and attack. He could also set the Raikou, which is going to pop my Brain Control. This Brain Control in hand, the main reason I didn't set the Brain Control, actually, now that I think back, at the time, he is on 3 darks.
Oh, really? Oh, yeah, this does take him up to 3 darks, you're right.
This Brain Control is my out to Dark Arm Dragon. And if Dark Arm Dragon is allowed to come down and destroy it, I'm I'm top decking.
You're dead. You're so dead.
And I'm pretty finished. Yeah. So we have the whole brain here. So this is really bad for me. He actually plays this differently to how I expect, and it ends up worse for me than I thought. So I thought he was going to go for a Vayu play here.
Yeah, I was thinking that as well. Yeah.
No, because he doesn't have a bird.
Yeah.
So because I bottomless the arm wing, right?
Say,
This is
now
super
you bottomless the arm wing, so it does make sense for it to be the plague.
So he's going to make a Goyo, and this really punishes my set Vayu. However, I mean, I don't think there's ever a world where I keep the Vayu in my hand. It would rely on me top decking Blizzard. So that's the top deck that he set. It's either that or the Rotor. So I know that's a fresh card, and I've got no read on it at the minute. So we are going to draw Kalut, which is not helping here. There's not really anything I can do this turn. So I could summon the Kalut and attack over the Vayu to set up the Vayu Sirocco in graveyard, but it doesn't get me any closer to winning because the Goyo will beat my guy anyway. I'm in a position where realistically I've got to find Blizzard pretty quickly or Black Whirlwind in order to really come back here. So Black Whirlwind or Blizzard are sort of my two cards that I'm really hoping for. I'll set the Brain Control as a bluff because he is now on 4 darks. And I believe he is on 4 darks that he cannot get out of the graveyard if we check.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, so there's no shot of Dad coming down now. So we can set this Brain Control and say, I've got TT or I've got Mirror Force, and hopefully he just, pokes for 28 rather than spamming the board. And
was there a worry there that maybe that's Dust Tornado? You've mentioned that you think they brought in 3, you've only seen 1.
So if it is, I mean, I'm probably losing this game. I feel like I'm in a position now where I'm very unlikely to win.
Yeah.
So I've just got to make the play that I think I survive the longest. And I feel like the risk of leaving an empty board is higher than the risk of getting my Brain Control sniped by a Dust, especially when the Brain Control is not really doing anything at the moment. I don't have a tuner to pair it with. I don't have a speaker to pair it with. So I think it's quite safe to set here.
Yeah, I think the 2 avenues of thought on that as well for me are he's already played around Gauze once, and nothing has really changed to make him not play around Gauze. The set kind of takes Gauze out of his mind. But equally, yeah, you're right. You don't have a tuner. You don't have a real way to convert this Brain Control at the minute. You're still pretty healthy though. So 55, 2 cards in hand.
55 against Vayu with Burial in the game is not really much.
That's right. Yeah, so they've used the return, but you're right. The Burial is still out there somewhere, and the Burial will be really huge here. Yeah. Okay, that's fair.
Yeah, and also especially when I went down to a single card. I used a lot. So that turn he played around the Gauze, the following turn I committed 4 cards. So I think that.
Oh yeah, and I think he direct attacked you with the Armed Wing, right? Did you take?
He attacked. No, because the Armed Wing got bottomless.
Yeah, no, sorry, you're right. Okay, yeah. So you're confident that they don't think it's Gauze now, though. So it's okay.
I don't think bluffing the Gauze here helps me anyway, because what he can do is summon other stuff and not attack with the Goyo, or attack with the Goyo last, and then I lose anyway. And or he can force the Gauze and then take it with Goyo. So I think bluffing Gauze there it's too easy for him to play around. Now we draw the Blizzard, which is the card that we needed. So we have a lethal line here.
Yep.
So what you kind of got to do is look at my position and think, what do I lose to? And if I play safe, do I ever win? And I think the answer is no.
What do you lose to?
So I will lose to Solemn. Whatever I do, I will always lose this game to Solemn. I will lose to Bottomless Trap Hole if I go for the lethal line. And I actually missequenced the lethal line in such a way that I would have also lost to MST or Dust Tornado. However, he didn't have it, fortunately, but there was a way to play around that. So the line is obviously Summon Blizzard, bring Shura.
You're thinking you were meant to brain con first, though, is that right?
I think this bit is fine. So I think this is correct because I'm sort of fishing for information here as well. We're going to make Bryonak. And we're going to prior discard to bounce the value.
Bounce the value. Okay.
But that's my value, right? So that's going to...
Yeah.
That's
back to your hand.
Now, this is where I should flip the brain control because I'm going to bounce the back row. And if that is MST, he's probably going to chain it, and I'm going to lose the brain control, and I'm going to lose the game. I got quite lucky because it was D-Prism. So now I can make the Armed Wing Synchro from the grave and flip the brain control. I know that he doesn't have Gauze because I know his hand is Greffa, Ryko, and a trap. Or
Yeah, you do know that, yeah. You're right. So this is game.
So this is 100%.
Wow, and just like that, you've 2-0'd a real high-level Edison player on the scariest deck.
Yeah, so that, I mean, some things did definitely go my way that game, but I think that was a good example of, you know, a game played to pretty high accuracy. The only question mark for me is the turn where I set the prison and the dust behind the Shura. Maybe just the prison was safer there. But it did force him to commit to the Black Rose play. Now, whether that was a good thing for me or not is debatable, but I think that's the only turn that I would potentially play differently in this game. And that last turn where I flipped the brain control later than I should have.
Yeah, I think forcing the Black Rose line was reliant on the idea that you will do better in a top deck war. Now that is usually going to be the case, right? Blackwings are probably going to win a top deck war, but you could have easily just kept drawing, you know, any of your utility cards that wouldn't have been live without monster access. So like Icarus, Whirlwind, stuff like that.
There was only one Icarus left. I'm not too upset to see Black Whirlwind, and his hand at the time didn't have a lot of pressure that I knew about. I think he might have had the rotor already. I think he might have top decked the rotor that turn that he did the Black Rose play. But I was aware that unless he found a dark to discard for Greffa, which is not unlikely, but I have the brain control. I will say I think it was a mistake, and that I probably should have just set the prison. He probably doesn't Black Rose there, but if he does, that Dust Tornado is not actually very helpful. I will say that. But I think it would have been correct to try and make him do... So I think the play he would be going for there is Gale half and attack with each in turn. In which case I would have to deprison one of them, and then the other one would kill my Shura. And that just leaves me with Brain Control, Dust Tornado. So it's not much better. And he still has a Gale in play.
And I'm just thinking back, the opponent didn't attack you in with a Greffa when they could have, if they weren't reading Gauze, if they weren't traumatized from the game one. So you would have been down to 200 life at that point. Or, well, not at that point, but if the rest of the game had played out as well, this would have put you down to 200 life. Do you think, because we also noticed it a bit in game one, they played quite passively. Do you think that's kind of cost them at least a game here?
Yeah, 100%. I think they should have been committing more monsters to the board. They were playing a little bit too afraid of Mirror Force and Torrential. Now, I really respect them, their restraint on flipping their set monsters. Yep. Leaving the hamster face down for a long time until we got the Necro set up, leaving the hamster face down for... I mean, all of the sets were left. I don't think he flip summoned a single monster. I think that he left them face, and maybe he overheld Rykos in some situations. But I think the bigger mistake was, not committing that second Ryko. So if he'd have set that Ryko alongside the Goyo and Vayu the turn after he made the Goyo, I can't win here.
Yeah.
Because that Ryko is just going to, it's just going to destroy one of my monsters. It's going to eat 2 attacks. And I deal, 2,300 damage instead of game. So there were certainly a few points where I feel like he could have won this game if he'd have committed more monsters. And I think when you draw your flips against Blackwings, you've got to play them because that's how you win. Like, his hands were actually really good against me, particularly the hand in game 2. And him refusing to commit, especially, when I dust shot him, he already had 2 Greffers and 2 Siroccos, so he must have had, unless he had 2 of one and none of the other, I would assume he must have had that pair the turn after the Dust Tornado. So, you know, I feel like it's probably worth committing something there.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm looking at both these games now that we've gone through them, you were down bad in the first game. Gauze kind of pulled it out for you in a simplified game state. You were down bad here. At one point, you just had Braincon in hand. They had 4 cards in play, I think. 3 or 4 cards in play. So you've been down bad in both these games, and your opponent hasn't sought to capitalize on that with aggressive pressure at that point, really, because they'd actually kind of slow rolled their way out of pressure hands.
Yeah, and I mean, there was definitely pressure that was missed in game 2. You could argue that, you know, that summoning a load of stuff into my 2 sets or the 1 set after the Dust Tornado might have been bad, but the point you've got the double Greffer, double Sirocco, and I'm not sure what his top deck was for that turn. It could have been one of those 4 cards. But certainly if you've got both of those, you might as well commit the 1, because if I can't stop that, I'm taking 4,000 damage. If I can stop it, you know, you've got a Raikou in hand, you've got a Hamster. Even if he didn't make the aggressive play, set the other Raikou, because that's going to eat the Torrential if it's there.
Yeah.
You know, if you've got a Hamster and Raikou face down, and you flip the Raikou and I Torrential the Hamster, which I'd probably have to do, you know, because this feels like quite a juicy Torrential, especially if the Raikou targets it, obviously. But even if it doesn't, I've got to do that. That then lets you follow up with the Greffer play. So I think there were some missed opportunities, and I think he did have opportunities to win this game. But, you know, it can be quite high pressure. And I think it can be very tempting in a format like War League to play extremely safe and extremely tight, whereas sometimes actually you need to take those risks.
Yeah,
I don't.
That's the thing that I get like most comments on when I do like high-rated Edison videos is, oh, this turn they have game if they push through, and it's like, yeah, but there's a back row that they might not have read, or they might be reading as something that it's not. Like what I tend to see at the top of the ladder is that the kind of, I don't want to call them middling because they are top rated players, the like 100 to 200 mark. Sometimes you'll find some really passive players in there. When you start talking about top 10, that's when you start seeing people like Alistair, your teammate, like McLovin, who are willing to, you know, I'll lose I might lose the game, but if I get this playthrough, I win the game. And they're not really setting up for next 2 turns. They're always looking for a kill shot. So I do think it's the mentality thing, and obviously this is obviously much more high stakes than just a ladder game of Edison. So do you think that makes people more conservative?
I think it shouldn't. I think it can do, but ultimately I think you don't want to approach a War League match any differently to how you approach a ladder match in terms of how you play. I think whatever the stakes are in a friendly, maybe in a friendly or a ladder match, you want to test some weird stuff out, but you should still be trying to play optimally. And that can mean playing into, you know, making a play that you might consider risky. I'll give an example. Blackwings, you know, you look at you have a Blackwing hand of some, you know, multiple monsters, a Black Whirlwind, and your opponent T-sets into you. Now, I'm not advocating for Whirlwind Shura here because you get absolutely ruined by your bottomless trap hole and a Raikou face down. But I would probably commit a monster to the board, and some people, oh no, I need to hold these monsters because I will get this Whirlwind off at some point. And if you look at my game 1, we had a Shura in the hand, and I'm quite an advocate in the Blackwing Mirror. There are times where I will hold back my normal summon until I can find a Black Whirlwind, and it's quite risky to commit a Blackwing to the board when Sirocco can come down and you don't have defense behind it. So unless I've got that Deep Prism or that book that I started the game with, I probably wouldn't summon the Shura there. But it is really important with a deck like Blackwings and with a deck like Vayu to play for tempo, to actually get onto the board and do stuff, especially in a matchup like this. You know, there are combo matchups where Blackwings are able to hold resources in hand and then explode and sort of go off. But against a deck like Vayu, if they get a foothold on the board, like what happened game one, I summon the Shura. Okay, I've got board control. He sets a Raikou into it. I swing, he pops the Shura. Board control's still on me if I've got another normal summon, but I didn't have one that was worth committing because I just had the double Kalut. So now he has control of the board again. He gets to set, play charge, set a second Raikou, and I'm on the back foot. Whereas had I had something in play, I can immediately trade with that Raikou again. And I'm always behind the normal summon from that point onward. Whereas if you can get the first monster in play, granted it's not always the correct thing to do, but it is worthwhile a lot of the time. And similarly, yes, you've got to think about torrential, but sometimes it's a good idea to get multiple monsters in play while your opponent is not on the board. Doesn't want to be anything that you have to commit a lot of resources for, but if you've got hamster that you're refusing to flip and I'm not attacking into, there's no reason not to set a Raikou next to it, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree.
And 100% in that end game when he's made the Goyo, attacked and taken my Raikou, set the deep prison, passed, I've gone to my turn. I've done nothing. I've set the brain control and passed. He swings for 800. I don't really, again, see a reason to not set that Raikou, because what's the worst thing that can happen? Oh, I draw a monster, normal summon it, flip my own torrential, and then do a Vayu summon. And I've got a 2300 stick that runs into his deep prison and he's still got cards. So I think when you're ahead, you want to kind of force the issue, put more pressure on, and that pressure can be damage, or it can be a set Raikou that's threatening to destroy my brain control next turn. So I need to do something about that. I can't just let that Raikou sit there, kill my brain control, and then suddenly my lethal out is gone.
I think that's so often. Just the logic that if you're ahead and nothing's changed, just keep attacking, don't commit to the board. And I see that all the time. And actually, like you're saying, what you're foregoing is a defensive commitment to the board. So if you're winning, if you're beating down your opponent, they've got a set. Maybe don't commit to the board if you're trying to commit an offensive card. So you're committing another attack position monster. But if you're committing a set defense Raikou, that's safe under everything, right? You're not going to get TT'd. There's not anything that can really punish that.
Yeah, and it would have also put him in a position where if I had exactly Blizzard plus brain control, I can't kill him there because he's got another body in play that I've got to deal with, and I just don't have the cards available to do that. So I do think there were a couple of mistakes. I don't by any means think that he's a bad player. He's obviously very good and he's on a good team. But those are sort of, and I made mistakes in this game as well, but I feel like his mistakes were more sort of general mechanical in just being overly afraid of committing to the board in a matchup where you kind of need to commit to the board, especially when it's, a set monster is going to actually save you. There's no way with me having a face down and drawing up to 2 cards in hand that I'm going to have a Sirocco play that's going to kill you through a Raikou when you're on 6,300. Whereas a Blizzard Bryanak play with brain control, sure, it's not that likely, but it is going to kill you there if you don't set the Raikou.
Yeah, and in both situations, you've elicited every avenue they could have taken. So here, all cards in hand, or at least 2 cards in hand, and the type of the other card in hand isn't Gauze. And then in game one as well, you had the oppression kind of pegged from what kind of 4 or 5 turns in, and
on the mid game, And I will say as well, if I didn't have a read on the 2 cards in hand, I am still going for this in this position, and if there's a Gauze, I will simply lose to it. I don't. Yeah,
you're a game up, so you're okay, right? You're going to be better in game 3. Going first, so you're happy to lose the game to a one of Gauze, knowing that they've got 21 cards still in deck. So and
as as I said, with when I was looking at the set card, and is that if I would lose to a Solemn or a Bottomless, if I don't make this play, I think I lose the game anyway.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's worth playing around Gauze when I'm. I just think if this game goes on, what do I have? Dark Arm Dragon, I think is Is it? I think it's live at this point, but for me, I mean,
it's one off, but it was live right up until the penultimate turn, right?
I mean, for me, sorry, Dark Arm Dragon
for
for
you,
me.
sorry.
Yeah,
Yeah, your dad's live as well.
Yeah, so I'm sort of thinking, am I going to sit there and wait to draw 1 in 25 Dark Arm Dragon, or do I just go for it here and hope it's not Solemn Bottomless? I think Burial would have nailed me as well, actually, because he has a Necro Garden banished.
Yeah, Burial would have also been a huge punish. But equally, those are one-off cards. You know, it's a Gauze, a Burial, Set being Solemn. Those are all limited cards. They can't have everything.
Yeah, and one Bottomless has also already gone at this point, no D Prisons were. So it was more likely to be the Battle Trap than the Bottomless.
Yeah. Wow, what a masterclass in how to read back row, read your opponent. I'm sorry, everyone, that I gave it away a little bit with accidentally hovering over stuff. That might be a bit anticlimactic, but yeah, talking through the whole reasoning was incredible. And this, I guess, is what a lot of people are missing when we do like high-rated Edison here. I can speak to what I think is the right play, but you know, I'm not. I'm going through them quite quickly. You know, every video is kind of under 20 minutes long, meaning I don't get to do this kind of in-depth breakdown exactly how that player's seeing that game at that point. You know, any of the really specific long game reads that they're making, kind of hard to fit into that format. So this has been really good to educate me, hopefully educate some others on how we're reading stuff in these game states. Some simple reads, you know, some when the game is simplified, it's quite easy. The end of game one where you knew every card at that point, that's kind of okay. But it's these ones where you've got multiple avenues of play, and you're you know, deciding how to navigate that. I think that's really helpful for everyone to see. What in terms of War League, where are you guys now? What's the kind of next round for you, Look?
So we are heading into round 6. We're currently 4-1. Wow. So there's 9 rounds altogether. So we actually lost our round 1, and we lost that match 4-1. Alistair was the only one on our team that won a game there. So we were off to a really rough start, but we've managed to win every match since. And we are going into Big Time Rush this week, who are an all-American team, and I don't know these guys, so we're not really sure what to expect. I'll be sort of analysing the replays of my opponent over the next couple of days. I know he's a Blackwing player, but that's really all the information that I've got.
And you're allowed to take a different deck into each round?
Yeah, so the submission deadline is 2 a.m. on a Monday, because it's I think the guys that run it are American. So we will have to submit our lineups by 2 a.m. Monday, and then the pairings get sent out by a bot immediately. So we know exactly what's going on. So I'll wake up Monday morning, I know who our opponents are, and obviously not deck lists, but I know who we're against.
Yeah, fantastic. And how can people get involved in War League? Is there any link I can post for this?
Yeah, so I will send you a Discord. In fact, I'll just invite you to the server.
Perfect, thank you. Yeah, I'll drop a link for everyone to get involved. I don't know if many people have 5 other friends to make a team with, but
yeah, so you need to make. I mean, the thing is, you'll meet people online, and they're a free agent. So any group of, so for example, the team that we played in round 2 were from all over the place. So it's not necessarily going to be, it's all people that know each other in real life. There's going to be a lot of people that have met online, or just set up, just LFT, and a bunch of people have kind of cobbled together that way. So there's all sorts. But if you do have a practice group, it's nice to get a group of your friends together and make a team that way.
Yeah, well, everyone, I'm a free agent as of right now. Let me know if you got a War League team. Luke, let me know if anyone drops out of yours.
So we've just done a transfer, actually. So we've lost Louis from our team. He's a little bit too busy at the minute, and I think he's more focused on Riftbound. And we've just picked up Red Gadget, who, as I said earlier, is a wicked Blackwing player, and he can play other bits and pieces as well. But he's very well known for Blackwings, with 2 UTW tops and an RBET top, and I think he won Swiss Nationals this year as well.
Yeah, and he's also done content like this one, like learning how to read the opponent's plays and calculating probability. I mean, Red Gadget's just a monster to play against. I don't know if you know this, I played against him once on one of my ults. The match lasted about 5 minutes with siding. I just got wrecked. To be fair, I was on a quick draw deck, and he managed to deck debut me, but that's not the point. It was embarrassing. He's a really, really good player and good content creator as well. I'll drop a link to Red Gadget. I'm sure anyone that's heard of me has heard of Red Gadget, but there might be a couple of stragglers. Cool. Well, thank you, Luke. This was incredible. You're not doing YouTube. You're not doing anything like that, but obviously you're aligned to Alistair, one of his testing partners, so we might see you in the content creator space at some point in future, maybe.
You never say never.
Man's too busy in the Mexican prison studying the Blackwing lines. Fantastic. Well, thank you for coming on. We really appreciate it, and I'm sure we'll have you back. Maybe even get some exhibition matches. More exhibition matches from War League from you to come on and then talk to us about maybe something in frogs. Obviously you're a really high level frog player, but yeah, I'm sure we'll have you back on at some point.
Yeah, for sure.
Thanks, Luke.